7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We give thanks.
Good morning, everyone. What a different, unusual kind of morning we had coming to church today, but it was wonderful. We all got inside, we lasted through the rain, the puddles, and everything else, so it's nice to be here. I'm Carl Morrison, one of the trustees of this Unitarian Universalist Church of Sarasota. We especially welcome our visitors, both on campus and live stream. We invite our visitors to participate in any of our events, and we welcome you to find out more about us and Unitarian Universalism. We ask that you consider registering on our virtual guest book outside, which you can find via a link on uucsarasota.com, alternatively, shown on the banner at the top of the page marked Welcome. If you do, we will send you our weekly newsletter and Zoom links to our virtual events. Most people are familiar with the Contact, which is available that way. It's done by Catherine Bonner. It's a superb understanding of what happens every week here in our church, whether somebody's on site here or off site in Cleveland or Ontario or wherever. So it's really nicely done. Help you stay in touch. If you are here in person, there's a sign-up sheet for visitors, and as always, we invite you to join us for coffee. Things are getting drier outside, and conversation after the service. We look forward to getting to know you. There are two special events for later this month that we encourage all members to attend. First is our Earth Day concert and celebration on Friday, April 21st at 7 p.m. in the sanctuary. This concert features Ferry Elaine Silver, Jay Martin, and Annie Williams with Sacred Sound Harmonics. This is a concert for our members and the general public, so please spread the word. Secondly, our religious education families, led by our teen group, are hosting a pancake breakfast to be held on Sunday, April 30th, directly after the service. I don't know what's up there. But I will say, as a veteran of the pancake breakfast, it's terrific. The food is great, the price is right, and you can help our teens raise funds for some of their programs held outside the church. Tickets for both of these events are available in the courtyard after the service today. Thank you. Penny and I, my wife and I, are people who live elsewhere, so we're here for about 5 months a year, but we stay in touch as a member of this church, actively involved in all kinds of things which we can do, and it's really wonderful to be able to do that. We've tried going to other places, other churches or other places. At one point, a previous minister from this church was the minister there who would point to us and say, "These are my friends from Sarasota," which was really interesting, you know? And there's a variety of other places that we've been. But this is where we have friends. This is where we feel at home. This is where we stay in touch. So wherever we are, Penny and I go to church every Sunday here, vicariously. We spent a lot of money recently to upgrade the lighting and the sound system within the sanctuary here, which will improve both the experience that you're having now and the experience others are having away from here. And the board just approved another expenditure to improve that more. So both kinds of experiences will continue to make it a wonderful event to be part of this wonderful congregation. So thank you all.
Thank you, Carl and Sarah. We're hoping to start to have more of our leaders come up and do the introduction so you get to know who some of our leaders are. And so now I invite you to rise in body and/or spirit for our opening hymn, number 38, Morning Has Broken. Okay. The computer went asleep, so, woo, echo, echo. Anyway, happy Easter, everybody. I'm Reverend J. Wolin, the settled minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Sarasota. Our opening reading today is Exultant for Easter Morning by Reverend Mark Bellatini. I could say they are beautiful, those stars hemming the blue veil of the morning. I could say it gives me pleasure, that bronze and perfect Passover moon. Or I could say they make me glad, those laughing daffodils along the lane. Or I could as well say they are lit from within, divine, overflowing with what some long call to reveal revelation, or even the growing vision of God. But today, on Easter, I don't care which words I use to express my wonder. I am just glad to be alive, blessed with such marvels. I could say the earth is hanging in space. It is an accident in the universe that just happened. Or I could say it is one more miracle in a cosmos full of miracles, one overflowing with divinity. But today, on Easter, for all my education and life experiences, I cannot tell which word is which. Accident, miracle. They seem to see each other's face in the mirror of my heart. And so I rise in gladness again and sing the marvel that everything is. When some argue for heaven and others argue for earth, for the life of me, I cannot comprehend the seriousness of that debate. After all, the heaven I see daily overhead never argues with me. It just tumbles clouds through my eyes and yours, and paints the horizons pink and orange come evening or come morning. And the earth I walk never argues with me either. It mostly just explodes with buds and petals like some out-of-control fountain. Heaven and earth remain silent even when people malign the ancient exclamation, "Oh God," by fusing it with violence and entitlement. But now, on this Easter day, everything grows back beyond words, beyond earth and heaven, into a necessary vision of harmony and peace for all humankind who rise into life that is alive. End quote. And so now, as we light our chalice, please join me in saying the words of affirmation which are printed in your order of service and on the screen behind me. As we light this chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, we affirm our fourth source, Jewish and Christian teachings which call us to respond with God's love by loving our neighbor as ourselves. And now, Catherine Bonner.
I'm flipping the microphone. Actually, excuse me a second. Thank you. Maybe not. Am I on? Can you hear me? Great. So, at Easter, Unitarian Universalists always celebrate the day in the miracles of the day. And the first miracle of the day is we had rain. Yay! Unfortunately, it really messed up my egg hunt. So if the playground looks rainbow colored, that's what that was. Anyway, at Easter, many Unitarian Universalists celebrate the day by reflecting on the lessons that Jesus in his lifetime shared with us. Lessons that I simply boil down to: love your neighbor. They are like us no matter their differences. Help others when they need a boost up, because we all need help and support at times. And leave this world better for you having been in it. Well, at least that's what my mother taught and expected of me. But living up to those expectations are hard, so hard that sometimes they are like a stone, very weighty. So hard that sometimes they actually get in our way. So I found a story for today. It's really hard to find a story for Easter. But it's a story that I wish someone had read to me many, many years ago. So here it is. The Good Egg by Jory John and Pete Oswald. Oh, hello. I was just rescuing this cat. Know why? Because I'm a good egg. A very good egg. It's true. I do all kinds of good things, like I'll carry your groceries. I'll water your plants. I'll change your tire. I'll paint your house. If you need any help whatsoever, I'm your egg. I've always been a good egg. It's been this way from the start, even in my earliest days back at the store. There were a dozen of us living together under one recycled roof. There was Meg and Peg and Greg and Clegg and Shell and Shelley and Sheldon and Shelby and Egbert and Frank and other Frank. The other 11 eggs weren't on their best behavior. They weren't exactly good. They ignored their bedtime. They only ate sugary cereal. They threw temper tantrums. They cried for no reason. They broke their stuff on purpose. Meanwhile, I tried to take charge. I tried to fix their bad behavior. I tried to keep the peace because I was a good egg. a very good egg. But nobody seemed to care, though. And every night I was exhausted and my head felt scrambled. Then, one fateful morning, I noticed some cracks in my shell. They were everywhere. My doctor said it was from all the pressure I was putting on myself. The pressure of making sure everybody was as good as me. I was cracking up, literally. Something had to change. I'd had enough. So I told the gang that I was leaving. I can't be the only good egg in a bag carton, I said. Blah, 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 they replied. So I left that night. And I wandered from town to town. The hours became days. The days became weeks. I lost track of time. I was alone. And out here on the road, under the stars, I really tried to focus on myself and what I needed. I took walks, I read books, I floated in the river, I wrote in my journal. I found simple moments to be quiet. I breathed in, and I breathed out. I started painting, and for once, I found time for me. And guess what? Little by little, the cracks in my shell started to heal, and my head no longer felt scrambled. I started to feel like myself again. So I made a big decision. I'm returning to my old carton and my friends because I'm kind of lonely out here. This time, though, I know what I need to do. I'll try not to worry so much, and I'll do good to my fellow eggs while I'm also doing good for myself. Here we go. Oh my gosh, everybody missed me. We need to flip the page. There we go. I missed them too. Hello, Meg. Howdy, Peg. Hey, Greg. Greetings, Clegg. What's up, Shell? Aloha, Shelly. Hey ho, Sheldon. Hi, Shelby. Good day, Egbert. What's happening, Frank? Howdy do, other Frank. So sure, every once in a while, somebody's still a little bad, but it's not like before. Here's what I realized, that the other eggs aren't perfect, and I don't have to be either. I'm okay with that. Yup. The old carton is back together again. We're a solid dozen. It's good to be home. So, this story, besides giving a couple of chuckles today, this story reminds us that we are all part of a community with all its differences. That being good doesn't mean not having fun. That being good means being good to yourself, too. And that being good should not be because it's expected of you or so you can pat yourself on the back. Jesus' lessons are to love, to help, and to leave the world a better place. And you do, because it's a part of you. So now, I invite our younger UUs to join me in the West Wing for an Easter party, which will have an egg hunt. It'll just have to be inside today. Thank you.
I'll just say, wow. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Our centering words today are called the Magdalene's Blessing for Easter Day by Jan Richardson. You hardly imagine standing here. Everything you ever loved suddenly returned to you, looking you in the eye and calling your name. And now you do not know how to abide this hole in the center of your chest, where a door slams shut and swings open at the same time, turning on the hinge of your aching and hopeful heart. I tell you, this is not a banishment from the garden. This is an invitation, a choice, a threshold, a gate. This is your life calling to you from a place you could never have dreamed. But now that you have glimpsed its edge, you cannot imagine choosing any other way. So let the tears come as anointing and consecration, and then let them go. Let this blessing gather itself around you. Let it give you what you will need for this journey. You will not remember the words, they do not matter. All you need to remember is how it sounded when you stood in the place of death and heard the living call your name. Let us now enter into a time of silent contemplation. Well, today being Easter, we are celebrating from our Christian sources of wisdom. And so I will start with the final chapter of the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, where it states, "When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James and Salome, brought spices so that they might go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun, S-U-N, had risen, they went to the tomb. They had been saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone from the entrance to the tomb?" And when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, "Don't be alarmed." That's what it says. "You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has been raised. He is not here. Look, there is the place they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. End of reading. And that is how the Gospel of Mark ends. It is the oldest of the 4 Gospels in the Christian scriptures. There is no, if you heard what I said, there is no physical resurrection of Jesus in the Gospel of Mark, just a missing body. Now, what most people read in the Gospel of Mark is the longer ending with a physical resurrection, which was added anywhere from 100 to 300 years after the oldest versions that we have in existence. So in the Christian scriptures, there are 4 Gospels: Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, and each gospel tells the story of Jesus of Nazareth and his ministry in the early 1st century. And each gospel concludes slightly differently, but one thing that is the same in all 4 gospels is that it was the women who found Jesus missing or risen. The women were the ones who were to go and teach the disciples about the risen Jesus. Now, feminist theology would tell us that this is an indication that it was the women who were the leaders of the early church. Yeah. There's a lot more, but that's a whole nother sermon. But this was later diminished in writings and actions by a patriarchal society. In all the letters of Paul, they're mostly to women who are leading these little house churches. So again, the women, those who weren't in power, were the ones who actually did lead the early church. As well, but I'm talking about the resurrection story today. So the resurrection story is also prominent in early LGBTQ Christian theology, because if there was a real resurrection, reproduction would not be necessary, would it? So I point all this out just to say that from different perspectives, there can be different interpretations, different meanings, different visions of the Easter story of Jesus' resurrection. And so what meaning can it have for us as Unitarian Universalists? So there are a number of details of the story that I do find very meaningful. First, the concept of rolling away the stone, right? The women were wondering, who will roll away the stone? And I think that is a good question for all of us to ask, right? Who will help us roll away the stones in our lives, right? In this story, Mary, in the light of day, is trying to find her way into the darkness of the tomb to unlock the secrets that may be held there, that are held deep within the darkness, the places we often don't like to look. Searching for truth takes courage. I also try to imagine a perspective from inside the tomb, right? When we are in darkness and looking for a way out, when we are uncertain about what decisions to make, when we have been hurt and fear further pain, when we have searched and sometimes we still have not found what we are looking for. Not just a U2 song, okay. So, okay, my generation, sorry. When we are angry about something and we don't know why, how do we deal with all of these challenges? Who will help us roll away the stone that blocks our path to understanding? Who will help roll away the stone that will help lead to awareness? Who will help roll away the stones that will liberate us? And within these questions are the seed of that answer. The answer is we need others. We need others to help us on our journey to overcome our challenges. Mary had Mary and Salome, and they had the other disciples to share with each other. And just as we have come through a long 2-year period of isolation through COVID, this past year we have emerged. Look at a full house here. We have emerged into the warmth and sunlight together. We, as a community, help each other. We help each other roll away the stones so that we may all see clearly. Sometimes it may be sudden, like just a flash, I get it, an aha moment, but sometimes it's gradual, and it takes time to gain new understanding. But understanding and growth come from being in deep relationship with others in community. Others who will hold us accountable and ask those tough questions. Others who will guide us on journeys, no matter what our age. Young and old, we span a lifespan here, and we can learn from each other. Trust me, when I go to that young adult game night, I learn things I never would have known before. Others who will pick us up when we fall, and others who will comfort us when we suffer. Others who will always walk with us so that we do never have to journey alone. And for this reason, to look at the resurrection story isolated from the rest of the narrative can be very misleading. The Jewish community at the time of Jesus was a community in despair. The resurrection is a story of claiming power for the powerlessness, of giving courage to those who feared, and giving hope to the hopeless. Rebecca Parker and Rita Nakashimi Brock, in their book Saving Paradise, writes, and I quote, "The Passion narrative broke the silence about the shame and the fear that the crucifixion instilled. To lament was to claim powers that crucifixion was designed to destroy: dignity, courage, love, creativity, truth-telling. In telling his story, his community remembered his name and claimed the death-defying power of saying his name out loud. To break silence whenever violence is used, to shame, to instill fear, fragment human community, or suppress those who advocate for justice. To break that silence is life-giving. Life is found in holding fast to the core goodness of the world, blessed by a divine justice and an abundant life." End of quote. Holding fast to the core goodness of the world. I just find that such a powerful phrase. And how do we do that in the face of so many stories and experiences of pain and suffering? And of course, we have plenty of experience in the news just over the last month here. But the solution starts with each of us, all of us together, holding ourselves to act with goodness in heart and deed. But similar to like drinking water from a fire hydrant, the suffering of the world can be overwhelming. So we come together week after week after week to nurture each other, to share our stories with each other, to inspire each other. We need to be nurtured to help carry us on when we get out into the world and are confronted by the challenges that we face every day. That nurturing can calm us when we get stressed. That inspiration can provide energy for us when we can't see the way. This is why we come together in religious community, just as others have done for millennium, but we just do it in our own unique way. Part of our coming together as well is to support the institution that brings us together. And so I invite you to let your donations, and while it be resurrected as a symbol to support our community we are creating together. Please be as generous as you can as the ushers come along with the offering. For those online, we have a button under the YouTube video, or if you have a cell phone here as well. Now, let this sacred time begin. Our next reading is Practicing Resurrection that I wrote. Every day the world begins and every day the world ends. Every day we have the opportunity to start again. It matters the path we follow, whether we follow that inner voice that calls us in the darkness of an unspoken dream, or to act in the face of an unspeakable horror, or to move forward despite the evidence that continues to tell us to give up, or to be reminded that we are enough just as we are, and our voice and our life has purpose, even if it is unknown in the moment. Or do we follow another voice that we hear on television that tells us we need to buy this or that we need to change this or that about ourselves, that we need to fear each other, that we need to hoard our resources? It matters what path we take. Do we take the path of fear, selfishness, and hatred, or do we take the path of courage, sacrifice, and love? Nothing is guaranteed. Our end is not written. It is not death we should fear, but rather a wasted life. So live fully and practice resurrection every day. Let's hear it one more time for Don Bryn and the choir. What a fantastic. As the Christian mystic Thomas Merton said, resurrection is about overcoming of fear and the utter and complete power of liberation. In the gospel story I read earlier, it says, terror and amazement seized them, and they said nothing to anyone. The Gospel of Matthew says they had great fear and joy. The Gospel of Luke, they are perplexed. So what is it? What is it that we fear, what they fear, what we fear, right? Why do we back away from intimacy or even communication? It is only through transparency in a trusting environment that we allow people to see all of who we are. And that creates an opportunity for growth for everyone. Being open and honest about things, though honestly, it can be scary. Right? Especially if honesty may be uncomfortable, and sometimes it is. But even when we are faced with the truth about ourselves, we often don't want to accept it. And we don't believe others also will accept us also. And so therefore it's important to accept and love ourselves and others for who they are, who we are and who they are, just like those eggs that we saw earlier, right? And I didn't really plan that together, it just worked. The stories in the Christian scriptures show that Jesus accepted and welcomed people not traditionally included in the community or in worship service, and he welcomed them into worship service. And it was that loving action, in my opinion, is that what led to their healing. Not a miracle, but being welcomed into community where they previously were not. If we truly hope to live out our values as human beings and as a Unitarian Universalist community, it will require clarity as to what our mission as a religious organization is. It is why in the resurrection story, terror and amazement go side by side, because it is amazing to have clarity and truth after seeking. So often we seek but don't find, right? But if we find something, that is amazing. But with truth and clarity, we know that change sometimes needs to occur. And this change might even lead to discomfort to ourselves and to others around us. And I will tell you, if I've learned one thing in life, is that humans will do almost anything to avoid discomfort and pain. Even if we know in the long run the change is necessary. So often we distract ourselves, we create rationalizations as to why we shouldn't or can't do something, and thus we rob ourselves of our chance to find wholeness. Now in this process of change, people do get hurt, right? People's lives are changed. People's relationships are changed. I imagine thinking about the families of all of Jesus' disciples, right? And Jesus' family himself, many of them, he rejected them, right? That had to be painful, right? And many of them rejected him, right? Painful from both ways. And you know, we are steeped in a cultural tradition of carrying on no matter what the pain. We come to accept pain as a badge of honor outwardly, even though inwardly that pain eats away at our conscience. Because we are not, when we don't act in accordance with our values, we are not living and acting consistent with who we truly are, and that is not healthy. And thus, we are not in relationship in authentic ways with ourselves and others. We also know that if we can overcome our fear, if we are willing to take that leap and believe in ourselves, and trust that others will accept us. And even when they don't, find a community, find people who accept us. If we are willing to trust that voice of conscience within us, we will, at the very least, have the opportunity to realize the possibilities that still await us in this wonderful life. Sometimes you have to be willing to lose something, a way of life, a way of communicating, a way of being, a way of believing, a way of behaving. But by doing so, you will save your soul. And by your soul, I do not mean about another world, but in this world, to be true to yourself, to be whole. And when we take that leap, something happens within us. We find a well of power within ourselves, and we find our relationships deepen. We find ourselves acting from a place of love. For if we love ourselves, it is easier to act with love for others, just like those eggs. What does it mean, even though, to act with love? You know, just helping others doesn't necessarily mean we're doing it with love. People have many reasons for helping. It might be guilt, ego, coercion. It's always good to help others, whatever the reason. But if we do it without relationship, without the depth, then I am not sure it will help us reach that level, that growth we want to find that inner conscience that is within us. But I believe that inner love is within all of us, and it can shine within all of us by doing the right thing because it is the right thing, right? Caring for others for the sake of caring for others, loving ourselves for the sake of loving ourselves, and not caring what other people think about us. And can we love a stranger if we don't love ourselves? Can we love another if we don't love one another? So once we realize that we are part of the same interdependent web of existence in the universe, and I believe we are capable of acting with love and acceptance. So I invite you to roll back the stone for others to see, to liberate yourself from the illusion that you are separate from others. Let the door of compassion swing open in your heart for yourself and for others. Let the love that is within all of us rise up again and again and again, and let it shine out so that we can see the beautiful universe that we are a part of, with all of its joy, with all of its sorrow. And as to whether the universe is an accident or a miracle, it does not matter to me. Either way, this life is full enough. May it be so for you. Happy Easter, everyone. I invite you to rise in body and or spirit for our closing hymn, number 61, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again. Our closing words are from the Reverend Joel Miller in The Rising Sun Today. We all know loss and pain, let none of it divide us. In the rising sun today, let us do together what we cannot do alone. Roll away the stones that close our hearts. Please join me now in extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you all for your presence here today. Happy Easter. Enjoy. Go with love.